Ponytails. Read by Scribbler. The Discarded Son by Gabriel LaVedier. Night at Sweet Apple Acres, a calm and quiet time. Work was done, and the denizens thereof were tucked away in their various places. Big Mackintosh was squared away in his bedroom, as was Applejack. Applebloom was out at a sleepover with the Cutie Mark Crusaders, trying to earn cutie marks for roughing it as much as they could without entering the Everfree Forest. And Granny Smith was in her kitchen, sitting at the table with a bottle of milk. She needed to settle her stomach after accidentally eating a hot sauce cupcake. She should have known that pink one would do something odd with the confections. She should never have gone to that party, even if it was on her property. After a long swig of milk, she noticed a noise. As much as she played at being a helpless old mare, she had all her faculties in place and looked into the darkness.
Who's there? Don't you think you're gonna get the best of me? Show yourself.
A figure slowly approached, into the reach of the low light in the kitchen. It was a caramel stallion with a slicked-back, shiny black mane and tail. On his upper body was a ruffled white shirt, secured with lace at his throat, a black waistcoat over that, and an open black coat over that. On his back, a simple, well-travelled set of saddlebags. On his flank, a cut-open apple, red outer skin and a mix of greens within.
Come now, Mama. Surely you'll remember me. I only got banished, not erased.
Granny Smith looked with wide-eyed disbelief at the sight of the stallion. She stood up slowly, on shaky hocks, slowly stepping around the table in the direction of the new arrival.
You're not here. I sent you off. And if I did that, you ain't here. Can't be here. My word is law in this family.
And yet, here I am. You're surprised? I flout laws somewhat freely, and you always knew that. This should not be such a surprise. I'm your son, your eldest child, the first of your line and your pride and joy. Or I would be, if you didn't think I was worthless, and were the only of being thrown to the winds. I almost feel inclined to thank you, Mama. I've had quite a few experiences in that great big world. Some good ones, even. But I'm back, because there's something that I need to do.
How dare you! I have a mind to call Big Macintosh down here. He'll send you off mighty quick.
I'd be long gone before Big Macintosh even made it halfway down the stairs. Be civil, Mama. This is an important issue we need to resolve.
Tain't no issues between us. We said it all the day I tossed you out to never return. That's done as far as I'm concerned.
Bad Apple motioned towards the far wall, just within the reach of the light at the table. The wall that held two photos, his own and Brayburn's.
We got one issue left, and you know it. Time to end this.
Granny Smith looked over at the wall and then back to her son.
I should have known you'd been around for that. Why should I let you stay even another minute?
Bad Apple took on a big, bright smile, fluttering his eyes at his mother.
Like the song says, ain't I your prodigal boy? Ain't I your pride and joy? Besides, I've got an offer you can't refuse.
He reached into his saddlebags and deposited 2 items onto the table. A large container of 3-coloured chips and a well-used deck of cards. Granny Smith glared hotly at the deck of cards, while Bad Apple extracted the chips and got to dividing them equally.
I wish you'd never seen a deck of cards.
Can't be helped. If it hadn't have been cards, it would have been dice, or the whale, or flipping bets. But no, the whole county tutted over Papa Adam teaching me the way of the cards. They all did that because it's what was expected. Shake their heads and make noises over Pappy teaching me cards, when they all knew the truth. They knew who taught me how to play.
Half of the chips smoothly slid across the table to Granny Smith's side. Old, steely eyes fell to the pile of chips, then darted up to Bad Apple.
What's your stage, boy? What do I get when I whoop you hard and send you packing again?
You certainly have a way with words, Moma. But, well, you know my stakes for winning. For you, though, I will leave and never return. On my word rather than on your demand, so you know I will honor that. And I will stop all contact with Applejack. All of it. No more secret contacts or anything of the sort. I'll leave this place clean in my presence. What do you say? Is it a wager?
Granny Smith gritted her gums as she thought of Applejack, calmly living under her roof and lying to her about never talking to Bad Apple. But, rather than say anything on the subject, she quickly flicked a white chip to the middle of the table.
And deal him out, boy. I'm an old man and I ain't got time to fool around.
Bad Apple smiled and tossed in his own white chip, quickly dealing out cards alternately and slapping the deck in the middle of the table.
Always to the point, Mama. That was one of your big selling points, wasn't it? You knew how to get things done. The business side of things, I mean. Papa Adam was perfectly happy to work hard. You managed the papers.
Granny Smith looked at her cards and quickly threw in a blue chip.
Don't you sass your mother now. I did what I had to do. Adam understood that. 'Tweren't interesting or sensible, but I got all them papers signed and got us a nice big acreage and then some.
Bad Apple looked at his own cards and tossed in his own blue chip, then took 2 cards and slid them beside the deck, replacing them with 2 off the top.
Indeed, I remember those days. I remember a lot of tears and screaming. We surely did get nice big acreage, and plenty more besides, all watered and weeping.
Granny Smith tisked and slid 1 card out, having replaced it with another. She also tossed another red chip into the centre pile.
Never you mind that, boy. I did what was needed to make Adam's dream come true. He wanted lots of land, more than we had. Yes, we were sitting pretty, but more was always better. We had to do it to preserve our place and keep us strong.
Of course, Mama, of course. Didn't matter he was happy with what we had.
Bad Apple threw on a red chip and turned over his cards. 3 of a kind. 7s.
You wanted more and more. Board up orchards all around are the water that kept them alive. How many families did we displace? How much sadness am my niece and nephew looking to inherit?
None. It's all over and done with, in Ponyville and elsewhere.
Granny Smith scowled, turning over her own cards. 2 pairs, aces and 8s, and a jack of spades.
Did you really try to finish a dead stallion's hand, Mama? By the way, did you know that in some places they call me the Jack of Spades? Not hearts, I'm not enough of a Casanova for that.
Bad Apple collected his chips and pushed the cards over to his mother. Granny Smith humphed loudly, gathering the cards up for a few quick shuffles.
I don't need to hear about your Lothario ways. 'Tain't none of my business what you do in the bedroom. Less than you're one of them coat cutters. And then I'll get Big Macintosh down here. Cards or no cards.
No, Mama, I've had some nice mares coming around to me. I never settled with any of them. I can't settle down. Not just because I'm a wandering stallion. But eventually things will catch up to me. Not that it matters so much.
A chip flew into the centre of the table and clattered softly.
But that's not the point. You're just old and backwards. Cult cuddlers are just as normal and respectable as filifoolers and populators.
I told you not to sass me, boy.
Cards whipped across the table to rest lightly before Bad Apple, along with a chip for the centre of the table.
Old and backward indeed. I'm thinking about traditional family values. My darling Applejack is the picture of value. Not that you care, but she's been sitting a fine filly named Rainbow Dash. Oh, she lacks polish. She's one of them factory city folk, you know. But she's got herself a respectable job clearing clouds and ain't had nothing but good love and respect for AJ.
I know, Mama. News travels. And I've been to Canterlot more than a few times. She also told me herself.
Bad Apple threw down 2 white chips.
Yeah, it's good that she found Rainbow Dash. I hope she stays happy, and I hope someday she or Rainbow Dash have a child as Maz have before, through magical telekinetic means, which I'm sure you've been discussing with her. But how would being a cult cuddler be wrong just because they can't give birth? They can donate. No need to be a dam, they can be a sigh.
That ain't natural or things. I don't know what weird lands you've been to, but here in Equestria, under our wonderful Princess Celestia, we've had populators and filifoolers. We know all the menfolk we can get for populating. Ain't no place for cult cuddlers.
Granny Smith lifted her cards and tossed a red chip into the centre.
Raise.
Bad Apple checked his cards and tossed a red chip into the pile. He then took 3 cards and slid them over.
Call. That doesn't sound like the Princess Celestia the rest of us in Equestria know and love. She has always been loving, tolerant, and accepting of all ponies. Are you sure you're talking about Princess Celestia and not just something you made up to keep being angry and hurtful?
Bad Apple put down 2 white chips with a slow, even motion. Granny Smith slid across 3 cards, taking 2 for herself.
It ain't what she says, no. But we gotta have standards. Gotta have our traditions. Like winter wrap-up with no magic. That's the way it always was. And it's the way it's gonna be.
She threw in a red chip and nodded her head curtly.
Raise again.
Fold.
Bad Apple turned his cards. Garbage with a high ace.
Forever?
Granny Smith showed off a pair of kings and took her winnings with a toothless smile.
Forever.
Bad Apple took the cards back for a quick shuffle, nodding a bit. He distributed the cards again and clicked down his ante.
Forever's a long time. Will you be here to enforce forever? Someday, all of forever's gonna be gone, replaced by ponies with new ideas, like how we have electricity now.
Never happen. We never get rid of everything. I've still got my hook-crank record player, but that crazy filly on the radio with their nice young co-host have all them gizmos and gadgets to studio. I swears, I wish Applejack wouldn't listen to them in the mornings.
Granny Smith anteed in and checked her cards. She tossed out 4 white chips and nodded her head.
Yeah, you have it, but they don't sell them in the front of the shop anymore.
Bad Apple called her bet and exchanged 1 card.
They're in the back, if they are anywhere. And don't try getting them serviced in every store with electronics. It takes a specialist in mechanical gear and costs more.
But they're still here. I can get the parts, I can get the thing fixed. Tain't gonna just lie in a lump if it don't keep moving.
Granny Smith slid along 3 cards and took her 3 in return.
We've got our values and our ways. We've always had that. We're always never gonna change it.
She checked her cards again and threw in a red chip. Bad Apple tossed in his own red chip and 4 white chips on top of it.
Raise. Never say never, Mama. That's what they said about leisure suits and flapper skirts. An abuse for cult cuddlers. That didn't last long, wasn't it? Princess Celestia that stopped that? I don't recall.
Granny Smith threw on 2 red chips and scowled.
Don't mean a thing. Just a sign she wasn't interested in beating ponies. Doesn't mean she liked coat cutters.
Granny Smith flipped her hand over. A pair of 8s.
Fold.
Bad Apple slowly slid his takings over to his own pile, dutifully turning over cards to show nothing. Garbage with a 10 high. He gathered up the cards and slid them across the table with a grin.
Whatever you say, Mama.
There next came a period of largely silent hands, marked only by notes of raise, call, or fold, as needed. Bad Apple slipped into a neutrally set face, which contrasted with Granny Smith's hard-set features as they traded turns dealing, and seemed to trade chips, neither having any clear advantage. However, it became clear soon enough that while Granny Smith took some bold moves that were often rebuffed and unmatched, Bad Apple took the slow and steady route, bleeding chips out a white at a time. The death of 1,000 cuts. Granny Smith finally deigned to notice that her pile of chips was minus a few blues, and that her stock of others was also dwindling.
Sorry, boy, I never took you for the type. I ain't seen any pony grind down slow and steady so well. I didn't think young'uns had the patience to chip away. Tain't gonna work, mind, but I'm surprised you even tried.
I told you, Mama, I learned a lot. I've had many an encounter out there, trotting the plains and byways, or riding the river with the other vagabonds. By the way, someone out on the river says, "Thanks for the flask of ice, Jack. It's even better after time wore the bitterness out of a mouthful."
Bad Apple dealt and grinned.
Lots and lots of vagabonds and travellers, displaced folk of the open road.
Granny Smith practically paled, almost toppling the clips that she had left and nearly fumbling her cards.
You didn't. You're lying to me. Tain't no way in tarnation you saw what you said you saw. Not on the river and not nowheres.
With my own 2 eyes. I had a lot of good teachers. Ponies that taught me to be good. Ponies that taught me to play well. Ponies aplenty that taught me that life is for living happy and safe. My life is helping to give a life you never let me have. I'm the Apple family's best face, but you don't even admit I'm one of you. I have a dozen names in more towns than I can think of. Saint or scoundrel, depending on which one you ask.
Visibly shaken, Granny Smith tossed in several of her blue chips and waited, silently, for a response. Bad Apple casually matched the motion and took 2 cards for himself. Granny Smith took 2 as well, then shoved her entire pile forward with all the violence her old limbs could muster.
All of it, boy, all of it. Do you think you can beat your own mama?
Bad Apple slowly arranged what was necessary to cover the bet and slid it slowly forward. With a triumphant grin, Granny Smith showed off her hand. 3 aces.
Now we'll play for keeps. I got myself in position.
If only it was so, Mama. If only it was so.
Bad Apple turned over his hand. The 4th ace. And all 4 7s.
That's the end, Mama.
Granny Smith stared at the 5 cards in dumb disbelief. It was over. She had lost.
No, it can't be true. I can't lose this. Not this.
Never bet what you can't afford to lose. Don't feel bad. You might have won ages ago, but you tripped yourself up. You played angry. I was playing for honor. So, to the wager?
I said don't sass me, boy. Fine. You want it so bad, you got it.
The old green mare rose creakily from her chair and hobbled over to the wall. With a slow and hesitant motion, she reached for Bad Apple's photograph.
Not that one, Mama. And I think you sort of knew it.
Granny Smith's head whipped around to deliver an angry glare, gums grinding harshly at the instruction. It galled her to the core. But she moved just slightly and, even more reluctantly, took down Brayburn's photograph from the wall.
Time to grow up and move on, Mama. No more living in the past. You will tell the family, and you will make little Strongheart a loved and appreciated member of it. No going back.
While the motion had been underway, Bad Apple had packed up and got into his hooves.
Like I told you, never bet what you can't afford to lose.
Granny Smith sat down at the table with the photograph, looking at the bright, smiling face, full of hope and promise.
But she's a buffalo.
You wagered the wall and you lost. You were happy enough to play when you thought you'd be entirely rid of me. So much for that.
Bad Apple turned to leave, but thought of it and turned back around.
And there's one more thing. Remember Applejack's trip to the Grand Galloping Gala, selling treats for the glory and enrichment of the Apple family? Remember how she went there? With a snake oil cart, a huckster's best friend.
A smile danced on Bad Apple's lips before he turned away to melt into the darkness.
Guess who taught her how to make one?
With her son gone, Granny Smith was left at the table, holding the picture of Brayburn. She wanted to put it back on the wall. It was her law. It was her will. She was absolute leader of the family. She wouldn't be sassed and harassed by her own son, forced to let a buffalo into her family. Not even someone with a cutie mark. She nearly rose, but remembered her wager. She had lost, and she was ruthless, but honourable. She couldn't let her scoundrel son hold the moral high ground over her. So she sat there, petulance fighting with her honour. She sat there all night, until Big Macintosh and Applejack found her in the morning, raw, red eyes looking down on Brayburn's picture. The decision was made for her.
I had a change of heart. Tell the kinfolk. We can talk to Brayburn again. We'll allow his new bride to be one of us. No restrictions.
Big Macintosh went to his grandmother to help lead her to bed. Applejack, meanwhile, looked at the opposite end of the table from where she had been and found a small, white chip. She suddenly understood what had happened and smiled as she picked up the little disc of plastic. Sometimes the right thing takes the wrong sort. That was The Discarded Son. It was written by Gabriel LaVedier and read by Scribbler, with special guest voice actors Deadly Reg as the voice of Bad Apple and Anna Chloe M as the voice of Granny Smith. Yes, it's finally done! Oh my god, this fic. I originally recorded the narration for this fic in August 2013, and Deadly Reg recorded his part of Bad Apple in late August, early September 2013, and the original VA for Granny Smith fell through, and then the second VA fell through, and finally Anna Chloe M, from It's Anna Chloe M, her screen name. She is an absolute star. She has one of the most adaptable and versatile voices I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and probably at this stage, if anybody has been in the Brony fandom for any amount of time and watched any comic dubs or heard any radio plays or things, they will have heard her voice. Because, oh my god, she can practically do the whole cast on her own. It's quite amazing. And Deadly Reg, those who remember him from a heroic review, and also as the voice of Mr. Waddle, here being a lackadaisical southern pony. Right, fangirling over. I am trying desperately to think if there's anything of real significance for me to say, and there's this niggling thing in the back of my head saying probably there is something I was meaning to tell people, because I tend to save up my acknowledgements and things for the weekly fic update, but But this week I'm drawing a total blank. It has been a rough week, and it's going to be an even rougher weekend, so plus I am just so unbelievably sore from aerobics today that I'm making a valiant attempt to lose some weight. And I usually do aerobics once a week and walk the dog, and that's it. And this morning I broke out my old favourite, the Jane Fonda from the 80s, and did the floor work for that. So now my belly hurts. And then I got to aerobics after school and discovered that we were doing a new routine that was a mixture of Zumba and Pilates, neither of which I'm any good at, and both of which have made me feel very, very, very sore. So this should be interesting about getting out of bed tomorrow. If it's anything like the last time I tried to do Zumba, it was a case of, yay, the day! Ah, poof! Hit the floor. My legs would not carry me. So, think of me as you all tuck into your cornflakes, porridge, eggs, bacon, pancakes, whatever you eat for breakfast, as I lie on my bedroom floor, crying desperately for somebody to come and help me up. I'm probably having my dog just lick my face because I'm not feeding her. I'm babbling awfully today. I'm going to shut up now. Be lovely to each other, and good night, everybody.